Hello everyone, Eric Chappelle, Civil Community Evangelist here at Autodesk, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webcast, the Dan and Dave Show, What's New in InfraWorks 360 and Civil 3D. This is a tradition that began long ago in the Civil 3D days, and I remember it back when I was an Autodesk customer. We used to do them, or they used to do them on Fridays. It was a pretty cool way to get caught up on what was new in the product. And we've kind of brought it back for both InfraWorks 360 and Civil 3D. Before we get to what Dan and Dave have to share with you, though, I just wanted to cover a few things. First, if you're new to our webcast series, this is something we do twice a month. We try to stick to that schedule of first and third Wednesdays of the month. And our goal generally is just to bring you closer to the folks who make the products, whether it's InfraWorks 360 or Civil 3D or AVT, whatever it happens to be. We want to give you that opportunity to hear from them directly and even ask questions and get some answers as to what's on their minds as these products are developed. I also want to let you know what's coming up for the next webcast on Wednesday, September 21st. We're going to talk about an add-on to InfraWorks 360. It's called AutoCase, and it's a triple bottom line sustainability analysis solution for InfraWorks 360 and Civil 3D. Actually, it adds on to both of those products. And I forgot to hit the little play button for the video at the bottom. But I'll let that run while I'm just talking about some of the details. Again, Wednesday, September 21st, it'll be 12 to 1, the same time slot that we're in now. And information on how to register for that webcast and some more detailed information about what's going to be contained within it will be coming up shortly. So watch the different URLs listed out there, the community site, the forum, and also social media, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And by the way, if you don't follow InfraWorks 360 or Civil 3D on any of those social media channels, I highly recommend that you do. We're constantly posting information up there about product news and cool stuff and things from our customers, and just it's always an interesting source of information. I have a couple of polls that I want to launch, and if you're a veteran to this webcast series, you're familiar with these polls. The first one is we want to know your usage level with InfraWorks 360. So let us know where you're at, ranging from not even having it installed at the top of the list, the whole way down to I use it on every project and couldn't live without it. We saw this trend downward toward higher usage, and then when we broadened the webcast series, we saw it bump back up the list a little bit, which we expected. We invited lots of Civil 3D users and other types of users into the mix, and now we've seen it progress downward to that I regularly use it on some projects choice, which is where we're at today. We're actually tied 25% for I regularly use it on some projects, and I've dabbled in it on a few projects. So we're down in that range with the most popular answers. All right, thanks to everyone who voted there. I'm going to close that poll, and I'll open the next one. We're interested in knowing what version of InfraWorks 360 you're using. The full licensed version, the LT version that came with your suite, a trial, maybe you haven't installed it yet, maybe you're not sure what you have. And this one's been a pretty strong response to the first answer, which is the licensed full version. I didn't include a pirated version up there. Maybe I should have done that too. I might be afraid to hear those results. Anyway, thanks for providing your votes on that one, and we definitely have a strong showing for the licensed full version. So let me close that down, and we'll continue on. InfraWorks 360 community, the community site, a really good place to go. It's kind of a central hub for all information regarding InfraWorks 360, and actually we're broadening this site as well. You're going to see kind of a relaunch of this site as a civil community, not just InfraWorks 360, and we're really excited about that. We've been working hard on it, and excited to be rolling that out shortly. But here you'll find access to the user forum, the idea station where you can post ideas on how you want to see the product improved, infra tips, which are quick tips to help your productivity with InfraWorks. A lot of them are videos. We've got a new and improved gallery experience where our customers can publish their work that they've done in InfraWorks 360 or Civil 3D or any product. And there's lots of cool ways to share that, whether it's a video or still images or even 3D models, stereo panoramas that you can view with Google Cardboard or something of that nature. There's tons of different cool ways to share what you've done and kind of show off your work to the community. Social Hub has information from different social media channels as well as various blogs. The videos, including recordings of the webcasts. So far, including today, I have yet to forget to record a webcast. That is a complete miracle. We've been doing this since last April. And we have a full library of every webcast that we've done in this series since then, recorded and posted on the community site, so definitely check that out. And if you already are aware of this community site, please share it with other folks that you work with or that you know have an interest in this technology. A bit of a disclaimer, I don't believe we're going to be talking about any preview or labs features today, but you never know, it could come up. We just want you to know that anything that's tagged as preview or labs is not a promise of anything that you're going to see in the future. And basically I'll sum this slide up to say don't make any purchasing decisions based on any of those types of features, and there's no assurance that you'll see a feature in the software until you actually see it there in a supported release. Ask lots of questions. We've got a big team of people standing by to answer your questions. So please, unfortunately, we can't open the phone lines because of the size of our group, but we do encourage you to use the questions panel on your GoToWebinar interface to ask your questions. And I see we've got a few already. Folks are standing by, including myself, to help with providing answers for those. And for some of them, we'll go ahead and interrupt Dan or Dave and see if they'll answer them out loud as well. So with that, I am going to turn the stage over to Mr. Dan Philbrick, and he is going to tell you all about what's new in InfraWorks 360. Dan, take it away.
All right. Yep, let me, all right. I assume you can see my screen, Eric?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So before we get into this, so welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. It's fun to be doing these webcasts again, and as I'm listening to Eric, I noticed there's a few things that are different and some that are the same when doing these webcasts. So first, I'm in the same room that we used to do these webcasts in, and in the room we've got Peter Funk, Sarah Cunningham, Charlie Ogden, Tim Yaris, and Dave Simeone. So everyone's here to help answer any questions you have. Our goal is just to give you really an overview of what the releases are in September. We are super excited about what's happened here with these releases, really compelling capability that we want to share with you. But one thing I noticed is organization-wise, Eric really keeps us on our toes here for these webcasts, super organized. So that's great, but some things that don't change is I see Dave still working on his PowerPoint over here, and so he's got a few minutes to finish it up. But so with that, let's get right into it. So we're releasing here in September. So we've got a couple of themes that I just want to touch on, and like I said, really pleased with this set of mid-year capability. So on InfraWorks, our goal with this release and our focus is really to be transitioning InfraWorks from where we are in conceptual design, let's say, and visualization to a BIM design and engineering environment, authoring environment, and platform, which we'll touch on a little bit, with a focus on roads and highway design. So as we talk to customers, we hear over and over again about the need for engineering capability, the need for design and engineering interaction, and that's been our focus for the first half of this year, and I think you're going to really like what you're going to see in a couple of minutes. And then on Civil 3D, Civil 3D is just best in class in terms of detailed design, production level work, and the goal here is just as you are using Civil 3D in production, particularly, hopefully, we should have done a poll on who's rolled out 2017. Maybe we can possibly add that one at the end, Eric. But really continuing to add value to you that you can just seamlessly update capability to your install of Civil 3D 2017 and just start taking advantage of new capability as the year progresses. So here in September we've got an update, and then we will have updates later in the year as we progress through the year, and you're going to see what we've been up to here. So I'm going to touch on InfraWorks, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dave for Civil 3D. And like I said, we have a number of people in the room here that can help maybe jump in or even answer questions along the way. So in terms of our themes for InfraWorks, where we've been focusing on for the last 6 months is really this design and engineering experience. And what we're talking about here is being able to configure how InfraWorks appears to you as a user. So I can configure it to be in an engineering view. I'll show you a little bit of that. How I get engineering information, feedback from InfraWorks, and just supporting an engineering context. So the second area that we've been focusing is just around the modeling and analysis and developing what we call a BIM model, or model assets that are parametric, conditional, extensible, associative, in developing this model. And again, we're focusing around roads and highways, and I'll show you that. Internally, we've been working on developing InfraWorks as a platform. This is a little more forward-looking, but I'm just sharing this with you now in terms of a theme, but having InfraWorks access data and services in the cloud. Some of that you're going to see, some of that's available now, but also developing an API for InfraWorks. That's not ready now, but that's something that we are actively working on. And then lastly, really having a connected workflow or connected experiences across the portfolio, from InfraWorks to Civil 3D, and then even into Revit in terms of structural design. And in this release here, we're really focusing on those first two areas, the design and engineering experience, and then the modeling and analysis. I think the best, okay, so the highlights, so again, so some of the highlights here, road and bridge modeling. So we've really expanded out the road and bridge modeling. So being able to author 3D models, we've introduced what we call a component road model that allows you to have a very flexible way for designing and creating roads. And then also expanding the bridge capability so that we've got a really integrated road and highway model that includes the bridges, being able to provide parametric content to develop your bridges. And we've also incorporated super elevation into this, so the road can support super elevation, which includes the bridge elements. And then to make informed decisions around quantities and your design, providing information around the earthworks, providing information around all the quantities so that you can make engineering level decisions in InfraWorks before you then complete designs in Civil 3D and produce production deliverables. So that's one of the main areas. The second area is around surveying. We've really been taking a look at how we can transform surveying through reality capture. And maybe another survey, Eric, for this webcast, or another one, is just how many of you are using laser scanning in your workflows, because we believe that laser scanning is just going to transform the survey industry. And what we've been focusing on is how to make surveying or how to develop models from laser scanning information. So how to be able to derive surface information, linear assets, and point information from a laser scan. And in this release here, you're going to see the first versions of that. So we're really excited about that capability as well. So I think the best way to see some of this is just to look at a video here. If this had been the old Dave and Dan show, this would have been a live demo, but this is a video. And so here I'm selecting a road and applying super elevation in here. So you can see we've applied super elevation to this road. And the one thing, I'm pausing the video here, what I've done is I've changed context. I've changed from a conceptual design context to an engineering design. And you'll notice in here, we can display contours if we want to, or we can dim the background and really focus in on the elements that you're doing for design work. So we call this design views within InfraWorks now, and you can customize these views as a user. So now we're in here, we've incorporated now a section view on the model so that we can get detailed information about the section, right through the road, right through the bridge. What I'm going to do in here is select the bridge. You can see we have quantities of the bridge. We also have earthwork quantities on the road and drainage quantities that we'll speak to in a moment. Making a few design changes to that pier. We're going to change the slope of that pier, change it to a different style, add that to the entire bridge. Now what we're going to do is we've also incorporated some more advanced grading capabilities. So we've developed a grading framework that we're delivering on the roads, which we will then deliver in site design. Here we're changing the slopes of that road, and you can see we get a nice grading where those two roads join. And then with the component road, we can just very easily go in and directly in context add a widening, and all of that is parametric, of course. Our grading changes and updates accordingly. So again, that's just a quick view of the type of engineering that you can now do within InfraWorks. So I'm going to get, and I'm going to touch into it a little bit deeper, but that just gives you just an overview. So hopefully there you can see a couple things. One is more and more engineering happening so that you can make engineering decisions as you're doing your design, having information to quantities to make those informed decisions, and then also an engineering context so that as a user, you can then be focusing in on your design work, and then when you need conceptual views or visualized views, you can just change that context to get the right deliverables. So what else do we have? So some other complementary tools. Eric touched on one of these. We have a few things that you can use with InfraWorks. The first is a partnership that we're doing with a company called Hydronia, and this is all about flood simulation. So if you have a need for doing advanced flood simulation, very much integrated with the InfraWorks workflow, definitely take a look at what we're doing here around this capability. So this company is really renowned in their ability for doing flood simulation. So we've got that a partnership with this company. The second one is Green Stormwater Infrastructure for InfraWorks 360. This has been available, but it's also available in the App Store for doing your green stormwater design. Triple bottom line analysis. Sounds like in 2 weeks you're going to get a view of this. So this is triple bottom line analysis, and this is a partnership with a company called Impact Infrastructure. So you can take a look at that before that next webcast. And then we have a mobile viewing environment. So mobile and for being able to view models on iPads. So really great for doing if you have stakeholder engagement or you're trying to convey information to users who may be less technical. So really great way to view models on an iPad. So just wanted to make sure, and again, these are, the relationship with Hydronia is a little bit newer, but these other things have been available in the past. Just wanted to make sure you're aware of them. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about roads and highways. So component modeling. So the first thing that we've developed is what we call road components. And you can think of these as individual components. So I could have a lane, I can have a median, a curve. These are all individual components that you can configure together to create your road model. What it allows you to do is have a flexible interaction. So here you can see we've added a lane in that image in here, or a turnout. In the future, we're going to be developing full quantification of this road model. But right now, it really allows you to create very flexible road model, including lane markings. And from there, we are getting earthwork quantities as well. So as you do your design, you can evaluate your earthwork quantities during the design process. The next piece is super elevation. So in this release, we've incorporated super elevation. So in that video, you saw where there's what we call what's called a carpet, but it's where the super elevation starts, where it ends. It's all very much in canvas, divided and undivided roads, with and without shoulders. And the real compelling piece here is we're maintaining that super elevation throughout the road model. So including from the road to the bridge. So in that example, we applied super elevation on the road, and that bridge accommodated that super elevation. And then in the image that you're seeing on the top of the screen, the drainage is also reflects those changes accordingly. So as I apply super elevation to the road, my whole drainage network responds to that as well, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But so this is where we get into that full parametric BIM model, now including super elevation. The ability to inspect roads. So you saw in that video the ability to see cross sections. So now you can inspect cross sections. Really gives you a good view of what's happening sectionally on the road. But you can also, in the image on the right there, you can see how we can toggle between things like cut and fill views, the full cross-section of the road, or just the top surface. So again, this is directly to the point of being able to have detailed information to make decisions about my design as I'm doing that work. So, and again, the section ability works on the road and works on the bridge, and you can see the various components in that cross-section. Grading. So for grading, really excited about this. We've got a really talented team working on what we call a grading framework that right now you see in the road. So we've introduced this new grading capability on the road model. So it allows us to set different slopes. It allows us to set different materials. This we will be expanding in the future to handle transitions, and then also expanding into site design. But what's really nice about this is we've got a really good framework that we're going to be able to extend to different disciplines. But here you can see it, and in an example, you saw that grading that it did around the intersection in our latest release here. And then, of course, from here you're getting your earthwork quantities. So here you see here we're getting earthwork quantities. The idea here, of course, is to get really quick feedback during the design process so that you can optimize that design. Remember, we have other analytics that you can use, such as sightline analysis, and so during the design process you can do things and trade off safety, look at quantities, and just really make informed decisions during that design process. So here we've included earthwork quantities. So you can see in the upper right, you can just see how we're presenting earthwork quantities. But then you can get incremental station information in the form of a spreadsheet for doing more detailed analytics. So just a couple of comments there from some customers who have been looking at that as we've been developing that capability. And then pavement drainage, we've touched on this. So InfraWorks has really nice pavement drainage capability for the road now. So for this release in September, we've really just made this part of that road component model. So inlets are placed correctly along the road with complex sections, including multiple gutters or super elevation regions. And then the analysis takes into account these transitions. So that has all been updated to reflect that component road model and the super elevation. And then, so that's in the, so I just want to walk through some of that detail. So now on reality capture, let's spend a couple of minutes on this. Hopefully we're doing we're doing good on time. So on reality capture front, so let's just take a look at a video here. Let me start this. So here's a video. I'm starting out in recap. And what we're doing is we've got a laser scan, just to kind of set the context here. We've got a laser scan. We're going to index that laser scan. And then what we do is we classify it. And what that means is we're able to determine what parts of the laser scan represent different types of objects. So what may represent trees, what may represent bare ground earth. We do what we call a classification process. And then from there, we start to build intelligence into the laser scan and develop models from it. So those are the steps you're going to see. And then ultimately, we move this into Civil 3D for our detailed design. So here we've got that laser scan, establishing the coordinate system, indexing it in recap. Now we're going into InfraWorks. So I've brought that laser scan into InfraWorks. And what we're doing here is we've just generated a terrain from that. And so in this process here, we've classified that point cloud or that laser scan. And then we go through a step where we recognize the type of classifications or features that are in that point cloud, and then we can replace them with objects from the model. So here we're putting in things like city furniture to represent the cars or the lights. Maybe we want to remove the cars from it entirely, but in this case we've matched all those assets. We can then go into Civil 3D, and we have that bare ground earth. Here we've got the imagery. Now we can go in and start to use that information directly in Civil 3D. So in this case here, we've got the imagery, we've got the surface. All of that point information through city furniture came into Civil 3D. And now we're going to bring in and create a surface. And there we go. We've got a surface. Now this is not a point cloud. This is an actual tin surface that's been derived from a point cloud that I can start doing design work with in InfraWorks or in Civil 3D. So we've gone from a very dense visual representation, let's say in that laser scan, to something that we can now immediately use in the design process. So we believe that this is really going to become useful in terms of that survey design process, so being able to establish, in this case, existing conditions using laser scanning. So what does that look like? Here, what you can do is in InfraWorks, you're analyzing that point cloud data, and so we analyze based on intensity and elevations, and we create this classification, and so we can very quickly evaluate large amounts of data within InfraWorks. And what this allows us to do is do this classification, and with the goal of being able to extract, in this release in September here, you can extract terrain information directly from a laser scan that may have a whole bunch of other noise or information in it. It could have vehicles or trees or signs, and all this information can be extracted from the laser scan, leaving you with what we call that terrain or bare ground earth. From here, you can use this in InfraWorks, or as I had mentioned, you can go into Civil 3D and directly use that. So here, what we're doing is we're feature modeling now. So in that top image, you can see that's a laser scan point cloud data that's been classified. So you can see there's trees, there may be linear assets in here. And then from here, we're automatically creating assets or building up that BIM model in InfraWorks that I can then use in Civil 3D. So you can see here, we recognize that there's trees. You as a user can associate the right style to those trees or signs, and then we also are able to extract that bare ground earth. So in the future, you're going to see us continue on this path and then also be able to extract linear features. So being able to extract, for example, that bottom of curb or top of curb, and be able to get that information from the laser scan. So this is all available to you now in this latest release, including that workflow with Civil 3D. And then lastly, we have the ability to create what we call a lighter weight point cloud. Oftentimes these laser scans are massive amounts of data, and so much of this data is redundant and not necessarily needed to represent that accurately. So we have the ability to simplify or reduce the size of these point clouds in a very intelligent way that makes them much faster for visualization and processing, and in particular in collaborating across a shareable environment. So we call it a lightweight point cloud. So if you go into InfraWorks, you can establish some settings for that, create a lightweight point cloud, and then be able to leverage that also in Civil 3D in addition to that data such as the terrain, or even build a terrain from that data. Okay, the last piece that I want to touch on is what we call design and engineering experience. And just before I get into this a little bit, a lot of the feedback we've gotten over the last several months or year has been, we love InfraWorks, we love what you're working on, but we just need more engineering, we need more capability about precision level input, and really how I interact with InfraWorks as a user. And so another part of what we focused on for this release was this design and engineering experience. And one of the key parts of it is introducing this concept of views, or design views. And you can see here, you access this through the this aspect of the UI across the top here. So we have different views. And there's some built-in views, which we call presentation view, an engineering view, and then you can create custom views. And this allows you to save combinations of the visual effects settings and interaction settings so that you can set up views that you can very quickly change. So for example, if I want to just dim the imagery, maybe I don't want the sky animating, or I don't want the water animating. I just really want a very much an engineering view. I can create a custom view. I'm able to then just very precisely work in that view, and then if I want more of a presentation view or a conceptual view, I just configure that view accordingly. So we've introduced this capability here. Love to hear your feedback as you start using it. We feel there's more that we're going to do in this area, but as you use it, we would definitely like to hear if you think this is resonating in terms of how you work with InfraWorks. And then another very common request is being able to view contours, and so we've started introducing the ability to display contours at specific intervals in areas such as coverage areas, and in the future you're going to see this coupled into the design view so that I can start to configure contours specifically for certain model elements and certain views. But certainly now you have the ability to show contours, and as you're doing your design work, really helps as a design aid to be able to show those contours. So this is something else that you can also immediately see in this release. So summary, this is kind of a detailed slide. I'll probably just leave it up for a minute, and I think as over the next couple weeks there'll be more information about the release, but like I had said, we've really got kind of two main areas: design and engineering experience, where configuring the views so that you can work, and some details around that. The modeling and engineering analysis, so here really focusing on that road and highway modeling, developing existing conditions through that reality capture, which you saw there. Touched on bridges, but we've done a lot of work to develop parametric bridge decks, being able to edit bridge girders and cross sections, introducing a bridge line girder analysis, so a whole bunch of interesting capability around the structures and bridge side. And then grading and drainage, being able to control slopes on either side of the road, being able to have earthworks, incorporating that pavement drainage into it. And then, and maybe Dave's going to cover this one here, really some interesting things around the drainage piece, where we've got a very consistent way of doing the drainage analytics between Civil 3D and InfraWorks, and so you'll see that workflow in a moment. The last thing, I do want to see a little bit about what's next, because this is all available to you. I'm not going to go in there, but Sarah has been working on making the InfraWorks 360 roadmap available on the communities, on the forum. So there's an InfraWorks 360 roadmap. It's right on the forum here. You can see the title there, InfraWorks 360 Roadmap Check-in. That goes into our next couple of focus areas. And so if you're curious about what we're working on next, I would definitely take a look at this, because this is really, your feedback is helping us really prioritize this, but this is what we're working on next. So take a look at what's posted up there, and if you have some thoughts around that or feedback, we're really glad to hear it. So so that's where we are with InfraWorks. So
Dan, if you like, I can launch those two polls that you requested.
Yeah, why don't we do that, and then we'll segue over to Dave, and if there's any specific questions.
So the first one's up now. It's what release version of InfraWorks 360 are you using? And it goes 2017, 2016, 2015, not sure, and a way old version. And I think Dan, maybe you can see the results because you're currently the presenter. Is that true? Actually, no, I'm seeing them.
I can't.
So I was looking in the wrong place. I see them now. The winner is 2017 dot whatever with 52%. 30% are on 2016 dot star, and then pretty small percentages older than that. So it's good to know that folks are on on the most current versions, and of course the latest version. Hopefully everyone on the call is going to install that today. So that's good news. And then I'll close that one down. And the next one you had asked about was laser scanning. So are you using laser scanning or point clouds in your work? And the The choices are always, sometimes, and never. So give folks a few seconds to answer those questions. And it's pretty resounding sometimes, with 10% always, 67% sometimes, and 24% never. So ask and you shall receive.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Very useful information. So sounds like that. We definitely would like to hear your feedback as you start to look at some of that capability as we expand leveraging point clouds in your workflow. So great. So I think Dave's going to take over control now. Eric?
Yep, I have switched it over to Dave, so the floor is yours, Dave.
Great. Thank you all very much. And Dan, we answered a lot of questions.
Did we?
Yes.
I don't know if we answered them well. Did you finish your PowerPoint? Or
Got a little time left. That's why I'm stalling. So, yeah, no, there was a lot of really good questions, a lot of good feedback in the Q&A. So if there's anything you want to hit, when we're done here,
yeah.
By voice. So, what I'm going to talk about over the next 20 so minutes is what's happening with our new V1 enhancements is the name we're going with. Historically, we've called these releases, these interim releases, productivity packs. We're going towards a new naming convention. So this is the first in that naming. So before we get deep into this, I kind of was looking through this, reminiscing about this event and going back in the day. And I remember I was in the early days just kind of learning how to ski, and Dan said, "Hey, let me take you out. I'll show you how to ski." So this is, if you zoom in a little bit closer, this is Dan up at the top, I think with his son actually. And I was fortunately sitting down on the rocks watching this debacle. But the best part of this is watching Dan for about 20 minutes noodle over, how am I going to put my skis on? But he did make it down safely. But the lesson to all is if Dan says, "Hey, let's go skiing," I would think twice about it. Okay? So anyway, so this is, I'm looking at 2016 right here. The point I want to make, and we've been doing this now for a while, is this whole drive towards what we call a continuous improvement strategy or continuous delivery. It's really about trying to give you kind of a consistent platform. In this case, over the past year, we had Civil 3D 2016, and then we released a number of extensions. So productivity packs, transportation extension, we even released productivity packs after the release of the 17 version, and in fact, we have another productivity pack planned for 16 in the coming months. So it's this whole idea of we want you to be able to have basically that platform, lay the platform down, and then able to then, as we implement new functionality, we want to be able to get that into your hands in as least disruptive a way as possible. Okay, and then as we go forward, in this case, 2017 has shipped, and a number of the tools that were in these enhancements or these deliverables have been rolled into the core product. There are some that remain outside of the product for various reasons, but the general principle is as we add this new functionality over the release cycle, we roll that new functionality up into the next big R. Okay, we're in a similar situation with Civil 3D 2017. So at this point, since I've got you all, we historically have released our extensions or our regional, or I call them regional or niche extensions. So these are things like country kits. They're all shipping. We've got bridge, geotechnical, river, and civil view modules. These are all shipping. And all of the regional or niche extensions, so all the converters like GenIO and 12D and dock extension and so on, these have all been released from our development team, and they're just making their way through the process of being posted up on Subscription Center or rather managed.autodesk.com. Okay, so these are status. Again, we recognize that those are an important part of the quote-unquote full release. We've also been delivering service packs. Again, change that's happened over the last few years is service packs. We no longer roll all of the service packs into one the service pack. In other words, AutoCAD can release a service pack on its own schedule, map, any of the other dependencies that we have for civil all get rolled out individually, so you can just access them as soon as they become available. We have Civil 3D Service Pack 1.1 that's available. The .1 was necessitated based upon a regression that we found, so we pulled the original version 1 out and made the fix to that, and that new Service Pack 1.1 is available. You'll need to have that Service Pack when you install the Civil 3D 2017 D1 enhancements. This is now shipping. It went live either yesterday or over the weekend. I saw it was live yesterday though. So Service Pack 1.1 is a dependency. Once you have that, then you'll see that it's available to you and you can install it. And just as we go forward throughout this cycle, we have plans for one or more enhancement packs. I can't yet talk about exactly what we'll cover on those. We've got some really interesting things that we're considering. I can say though they touch upon shared workflows and then expanded workflows to help make you more productive. Okay, so again, that's that ongoing theme of trying to give you as much functionality as it becomes available in at least a disruptive way as possible. So let's look at what's included in this. So first of all, when it's installed, you're first of all going to get this as an entitlement to subscription. So this is for annual subscription with Civil 3D, IDS Premium or Ultimate, or also those who have the Architecture, Engineering, Construction Collection, which is our new deliverable. Okay, it includes a combination of completely new tools. We're going to talk about those in a second, and then updated versions of tools that we've released in the past. Key thing when we release these is that they don't introduce any change to the model of the drawing version. So it's when you're working with people who are using 2017, it does not matter if they have the service pack or this extension. It's going to have zero impact on the version of the model or the drawing. It's not going to impact any of the existing content or styles or any of that you may have, and also those of you who either acquire third-party applications or build your own third-party applications. There's no API impact. There are some API enhancements, although those are in the service pack, but they're not going to change any existing APIs that you may have. Okay. So how do I get this? And this applies, I think, also for the InfraWorks update. So we thought it made sense to talk about this. There's one of two ways that you have access to, and this, again, this is for InfraWorks 17.2. It's also for AutoCAD updates, Revit updates, etc. So as a user, you're going to get a proactive notification, and you're going to be able to install via the Autodesk desktop application. Right, that's that little widget you'll see down in your tray on the right-hand side of your screen. Right, you'll get a notification that says that you have updates, and it's basically going to show me anything that I can install based on what I have an entitlement for. So in this case, on my machine, I have an entitlement for the Civil 3D 2017 V1 enhancements. I also have Revit, I have AutoCAD. So I have a number of these different tools that I can add. Okay, that's, I would categorize as it's a proactive notification, so it lets you know that these things are there. And then for those who can install individually, this will basically just install it for you. So it's a nice, clean way to do it. For those of you who are going to be adding installation of functionality into a deployment, or it's going to be managed at the CAD manager level, you're going to access these tools through manage.autodesk.com. And what you'll see is basically a similar list of here are all of the things that are available to me. This is nice because I can search, in this case on my screen. I'm looking for anything that applies to Civil 3D 2017. Again, if I want to look for the InfraWorks 17.2 installation, that's where I'm going to find it. Same with Revit, Navis, etc. Okay. All right, so let's talk about what makes up this extension. So there are a couple things that are basically ports or updates from last year's productivity pack. First is the Civil Engineering Data Translator. There's a cloud service that allows you to basically convert your civil 3D model information into either Bentley inroads of GeoPack data, or you can import Bentley GeoPack inroads surface and geometry models into Civil 3D and create drawing files. So yeah, it's a real clean, easy way to get data back and forth between these two environments. It requires your Autodesk 360 login, but we're not consuming any cloud credits. And it's, again, it's a cloud service. It's an interesting one. We're getting somewhere, it's a little slower in the summer, but anywhere between, I think, 400 to 900 jobs being processed a month. So it's actually been a pretty, consistently growing number of people who need to, who basically rely on this tool to be able to give them a shared environment where they can work together with somebody who's using Bentley Civil Engineering products. The other tool that we're porting, essentially this is a direct port from 16 up to 17, is the rail turnouts and crossings workflow. So this allows me to create essentially alignment geometry that represents turnouts and crossings. I can also customize the catalog so I can add my own content. And then we've introduced tools, I think last year, that allow you to create tables and some of the other production drafting that you need for your turnouts and crossings. And then the last ported item, and this, I hesitate to call this a ported item because this is a tool that's actually had many different steps in its life. And at this point, we're at a point where it's, I would categorize it as very, very mature. It was initially released in Civil 3D 2016 Pro Pack 3, but it's actually two tools. One is the ability to create and edit a Travis, so using a combination of graphical and numeric input. And then we've got a robust Travis analysis and reporting tool. So really, really strong solution for manual input of data, feed creation, etc. So again, this was, as I said, it was initially introduced for 16. And as I said earlier, we had earlier versions of it. For those who had looked at earlier versions on 15 and even the initial 16 release, it's changed significantly. So I strongly recommend that you take a look at this, this new implementation. Okay. All right. So here's some of the new stuff that we've added. We have 29 new sub-assemblies. These kind of fit into the, we've made these also available for 2016 users, but we have a library of sub-assemblies. These will benefit really all user types. So if you're working on road and highway, rail, site, all of these have been generated using Sub-Assembly Composer. We were looking for not only out-of-the-box tools that you could use, but also tools that you could easily extend without having to be a programmer. We have both metric and imperial content, and then full documentation. So, there's the information that will help you become productive with these directly. Okay, so those are available. Side note on this, we are also working on another library of content, again, both metric and imperial. This will continue to broaden the catalog that we provide. Those will be available, again, at the point where we think they're ready for production use. Okay, so let's talk about the three primary new workflows that we've introduced. The first one pertains to being able to extend the use of property sets within Civil 3D. So property set, this is something that we've really been introducing over the past year or so. Essentially, this is incremental data that we can associate to an object. So in this case, I look at it sorry about that. As Dan said, you can't pause by hitting the space bar. So click here. Okay, so essentially we're able to add really any data we want to any object in the drawing. So it can be our Civil 3D objects, it can be straight AutoCAD entities, and it's just an extremely open, flexible system. In 17, we've out of the box. Now, if you add core solids, you're going to see that property data is automatically attached. So what we're looking at here is, okay, if we start to include this intelligence, how do we include that intelligence in our labels? So what our label composer now allows you to do is, once you have property sets defined per object type, you can now add those fields into the label. So in this case now, if I create some labeling, making a network label on this plan view of the pipe, in this label style, we've already gone through and added those incremental fields. So in the past, we were limited to what's the data that we have included or exposed to you, within the object, the pipe network or the point or whatever it may be. This now gives you that ability to add any data that you want to add and then include those values in your labels. Okay? So this is the start of, again, of a broader workflow. We're looking at how we move data from other sources and include all of this ad hoc information. It could be GIS collection, it could be field survey, all of those different types of things. It's trying to build basically that property set approach for making our drawings more intelligent, trying to build that more of the infrastructure around it so you can use it for more things. And the next piece of it gets into analyzing gravity networks. So this is, as Dan said earlier, this is really a shared effort between across the infrastructure team. What we've been building is a core analysis environment or analysis engine, which really is independent of any product. Okay, and just pause. So what we've, initially this was being exposed within InfraWorks on the drainage, the roadway drainage tools. But we've now been expanding that engine and then making it so that we can connect our civil 3D pipe networks, both to analyze the network and then also to size. So let me start this back up here. So what you can see here is I've got a network in the drawing. If I run the new tool, I'm then going to select my pipe network, launch it here. Okay. So select the network, and then we've got really all of the different controls that you're going to need that are going to influence the analysis and ultimate sizing here. So, so we were able to mine the information that you have within the drawing itself. This is going to work with both out-of-box Civil 3D gravity content as well as content that's been generated using the Chameleon Labs project. If you're working with the historical content, there's some additional data you're going to need to add as you work through here. But so we can define our rainfall data. We can read that in from a file. We can manually input it, and then we can define again what are the characteristics of all of the structures and pipes within the network. From there, we're able to define basically all the flow coming into all of the structures. This is connected with all of our catchment area data, so we're going to basically streamline that process as much as possible. And then from there, it runs through the analysis, which is basically pick a button, it's done, and now it's going to save that data into a CSV file. We have different options. Do I want to update the network graphically? Do I want to hold that data and then run the analysis again? And then, again, as always, I'm able to go in and look at the spreadsheet, which contains all of the analysis results, basically my report. And then I can, again, continue to go through this iterative process of adjusting or modifying my pipe network. Okay. All right, so again, this is, as we said, this is a shared component. It's a little bit of how you interact with this through the Civil 3D environment, and then what are the core capabilities of the engine itself. We're going to continue to invest in both of those. So this is out now, so we'd love to hear feedback, because again, this is an area, we know that there are global demands, global requirements. Those of you from outside of the U.S., we're certainly interested in hearing your feedback on the applicability of this tool. But again, we're also looking at what else can we do to make this so we've got a both a local and global solution for drainage analysis. And then the last one, again pertaining to movement of fluids, is a high idea station requirement, which is swapping of pressure networks. So we've got the pressure networks in Civil 3D, and I think, as people are well aware, right now there's really been no way to actually change from one object, one fitting or pipe to another fitting or pipe. So that's what this tool is effectively doing. So within this case, I've got my main line, and I want to have a trunk coming off of it. And at this point, I want to resize both that fitting and that pipe so that my for whatever capacity requirement that I may have. Okay, so as I launch the command, it's going to give you actually quite a bit of control. Again, because if you think about it, if you're resizing some of these things, it's going to have to understand, well, what are the control values? Where am I getting my elevation from? Other things such as that. So in this case, here's the part family that I'm working from. I want to pick a different P with different size on the lateral. And now I've got a pipe that is the wrong size. I can again go through that swap utility. And again, you can see I've got my different options as far as, am I going to hold the top, am I going to hold the bottom, hold the center, and what are my different options that I've got in there. So, again, this is a process where I can go through and I can very quickly essentially move from, between my different elements of my network and make adjustments as I may need. Okay, so those are the new things. So it's a balance of new and existing. In particular, we're interested in any feedback that you guys may have on the new things, because those are new to the market. And again, as with everything, we base our we're perpetually looking at what's next, what's needed. Some of these tools we know there's grander visions. Like I said, on the drainage analysis side, the things that we want to do to make them more global, more local. In this case, we know there are requirements related to layout of pressure networks. We also know there's requirements related to analysis of networks. So, keep that information coming. Peter Funk's in the room. Peter is daily scrubbing Idea Station, and we're doing our best to incorporate Idea Station requirements into our plan. I think I looked this morning, Peter, we're at like 37 to 39 implemented ideas. There's a number of them that we are actively working on that we can't switch over to implemented yet, but those are things that we're actively investing in. So keep the ideas coming up there. So I think that covers what I wanted to hit, and I go to a blank slide now, and I don't know if there's anything urgent you needed me to speak to, or again, Eric, should we pass it over directly to you?
Yeah, I think I'm showing about 2 minutes left, and I just wanted to take the last minute or two to just remind everyone that our next webcast is going to be about AutoCase, and it's going to be on September 21st. So I want to make sure everyone makes an effort to come and see that. You definitely want to check out this this application. It's a really cool extension of the capabilities of Civil 3D and InfraWorks 360, and it's kind of a new idea for us because we're talking about a third-party application in this case. So it's pretty exciting that we're going to be kind of showcasing a partnership with this particular webcast. I wanted to thank Dan and Dave for doing a fantastic job as usual. Also, we had a big team in the background, Tim and Sarah and Peter and Charlie and maybe a few other folks. I know we had well over 50 questions in the questions panel there, and they've been working hard and providing lots of answers to all of those questions, and that's been a tough job. So thanks to all of you for the concerted effort to pull off this webcast today. And I think with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Again, I'm Eric Chappelle, Civil Community Evangelist for Autodesk. And thanks for coming. Thanks for giving us an hour out of your day. And keep checking out the community for what's coming up next with webcasts and whatever announcements we have, information, tips, all that stuff. regarding our civil products. Thanks and have a great day.